G'day everyone, welcome to the second episode of Clickability's video series. I'm Tristram and we're joined once again by Belle. Belle, how are you going today?
Good, excited to be back, Tris. Loving life. We've just got out of lockdown in Melbourne, so that's great at the moment. How are
Same.
you?
I'm well. Well, no, it's raining in Queensland again, which is not just, tradition. I don't like
I
it.
think we've stolen your good weather. It's been like 35 here all week and beautiful. It's so nice.
It's frustrating. Anyway, it's all good.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great. We've got some exciting things coming up with
hmm
clickability. A little bit of a teaser for the folks
Yes.
at home that will be
Keep them
revealed
hooked.
soon. Yeah, that's it. But today we're going to talk about inspiration porn, which is something that many people have probably seen mentioned in the
Yep,
media, but they probably might not be aware of what exactly it is. And so we're going to talk through some of our own
definitely.
experiences and that. But before we do, let's run through what it is exactly. So
Mm,
I suppose the way in which I frame it is disability representation is usually one of two extremes. So it's either
hmm
inspiring or pitying. And the
Yeah.
issue with that is that it doesn't normalize disability, it only paints it as one of those two things, which can be quite damaging to
Mm.
how people perceive it, how they treat us. And it's just a bit of old school thinking, I think.
It's so true. And being perceived as either of those ends kind of takes away your individuality and your personality in many ways. You know, we're just human beings who happen to have disabilities rather than disabled people who happen to be human beings.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I tend to get the pity end of the stick, which is always fun. I know on Instagram, whenever I'm doing advocacy stuff, I get a few lovely people wanting to pray for me and asking if I'd like their prayers. And I think they're really picking up on that pity side for sure of that representation.
Yeah, what do you say to someone in that instance? Do you just let it go, or do you confront them? What's the solution?
I tend not to because I don't know if if that's really going to help at all. I mean, I try
Mm.
and talk about these issues openly, but dealing with the individual is too difficult. And I'll oftentimes like I don't want to do that. It's just not my place. I don't have to educate everyone, and it's not comfortable always to take that role.
Yeah, it's really powerful that I know that Carly Finlay, just the activist and author, she's published Say Hello, a memoir, as well as Growing Up Disabled, which has just come out. She
Mm,
often talks about the fatigue of always being the one to have to educate people. It can be
totally.
really tiring, and it shouldn't have to be us doing it, should it?
Yeah, yeah. And so often when I have those conversations, it's like, oh, yeah, I never know anything about this. Like, I only know about it because of you. And I'm like, surely there are more disabled people walking around also sharing these things as well. But yeah, it's very tiring.
Yeah, I think the other like end of the equation when we think about inspiring as well is this notion that people are thinking that their own lives are better than ours.
hmm
It's this like, oh well, my life's not as bad as theirs,
Yes,
and they're
totally. It's
using
highly
it to like,
condescending.
or like this other can-do attitude. You know, the old saying that the only disability in life is a bad attitude.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just so damaging. I know, for instance, when I go to music gigs, sports games, at least once a year, I will have someone come up to me and be like, "It's
Mm.
so inspiring that you're out. You make me put my life into perspective."
Oh my God.
It's
Yeah, that's not our job to put your life
no,
into
it's
perspective.
not.
Thanks.
What am I meant to be doing with my
Yeah,
life? Just sit
yeah.
at home, twiddling my thumbs. I don't
Yes,
know.
totally. And I think two of the big issues that surround inspiration porn, one is that it presents disabled people for typically able people. So if it was about us and our community and sharing stories and that sort of thing, that's one thing. But inspiration porn typically isn't that. And it's presenting us not for our own eyes and not for our own purposes, but for the typically able community, which is counterintuitive to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes, yeah, so nicely to this notion that, yeah, I don't know, we're just not there to inspire. I don't know. I can't wrap
No,
my head
no.
around
Yeah.
why this is such a simple concept that people can't
Yes,
come to grips
totally.
with.
And I think the thing is that when there is inspiration porn and that sort of thing, and it's linked to like particularly the inspirational side, perhaps more than the pity side. If you see like someone, it's always talking about like, you know, the hard life that this person has had, like the hard yards that they've gone through. And I'm like, through inspiration porn, you don't actually have to deal with the society that has created those hard yards for people with
Yeah,
disabilities. You can just see the end result and be like, oh, look at them, they did so well. Congratulations. Rather than actually being like, all right, why are there hard yards for people with disabilities? What in our society is creating those? Because it is in many ways a social construct.
absolutely.
All these difficulties that disabled people face.
That leans into a really nice concept as well, which is the social model of disability, which
Love it.
is, yeah, it's great. It's this definition that we're not defined by our medical diagnoses,
Totally.
but by the, you know, inaccessible features in society. Society is what
Yeah.
disables us.
Yeah.
And going back, linking that to your other point around inspiration point is so often driven by non-disabled people. It's the fact that our voice isn't often
Yes.
represented enough in media, and so that leads to this cycle, this dangerous cycle where it
Yeah.
just repeats and repeats.
Yes, totally. And I think that even the people with disabilities that are considered as kind of palatable to society are one very specific sort of like particularly athletes, I think, which is amazing. And that
Yeah,
representation is great. But not every person with a disability wants to be a Paralympian or could be. I'm crappy at sports. So, you know, it would be nice to see our voices in a bigger variety of ways, because just like any other person, there's huge diversity within the disability community itself.
and what's I think perhaps slightly counterintuitive to what we're saying, but I think is also important to note, is that someone with disability can still be inspiring. They can be inspiring for a whole array of different reasons. For instance, I recently interviewed Dr. Dinesh on the podcast about
Yes.
how he became a doctor, and it's just truly a fantastic story. But I think the
Yeah.
important thing to note is he's not inspiring because of his disability. He's inspiring because of what he's doing in his everyday life. So maybe that's a good way for people to contextualize. If they're
It's so true.
feeling inspired by someone
Yeah,
with a disability, if that person was able-bodied, would they still be inspired?
exactly. That's such a great point, Tris.
Sometimes I have them, rarely,
Yeah,
but
here and there,
sometimes I have them.
around and about.
Yeah, sometimes. But I think it's this notion that the everyday tasks that we're undertaking. So if we go buy a carton of milk from the shops,
Yeah.
if I'm at a music gig, at a sports gig, if you're posting on social media, that doesn't make us inspiring.
No,
So
no.
don't treat it as such.
So true. And I also think the thing is that with inspiration porn, a lot of the time it's also the story of the typically able person who, you know, like helped the disabled person, and they're so amazing for doing that. And then I think this lends into things like you talking about this example of being at the shops, me doing my shopping, totally capable of it, and people being like, can I help you lift that bag? I'm like, I have a hand, at least one. Or being on the I might have told this story already, I'm not sure, but being on a bus once and a man asking if I needed to sit down because I was standing up. I was like, I got two legs and they both work. I didn't know you needed a left hand to sit down, but thank you. That's really
Absolutely.
great. You're the typically able disabled. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's such a powerful thing as well, this notion of savior. It's this thought that we need a savior to live a meaningful life when
Yes.
we're living meaningful lives already.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
exactly.
working. You're studying to be a lawyer, which is
Yep.
insane. I'm playing sport. I'm doing all these
Yeah.
everyday things, and these things give us meaning. So we don't need someone to
Yes.
swoop in and save us from, you know, the horrors of being disabled, because they're not
Yes.
horrors.
Exactly. It's a great life. And I think I would not change the way that I am for a minute, but I would change the way that society views the way I am for sure.
Absolutely. And when it comes to that, I mean, if we're going full circle, this notion that we shouldn't always have to be the one educating people on our lives and disability. If we are to change the cycle, though, where do you think people should go? Is it just a case of looking at shows and news
Yeah.
that has better disability representation?
Yeah, well, I think there's a plethora of resources, particularly on social media and online, for educating yourself about disability. And there is a point where it is like unacceptable to not choose to educate yourself, and I think we all have that responsibility. There's documentaries like Rising Phoenix. There's podcasts like Triss's podcast. That's so
Stop it.
amazing.
I did not pay her to say that, viewers.
No,
I
but
didn't pay her.
he didn't. It's totally true. It is amazing. Yeah, there's a plethora of resources. If you just, take that like decisive action and actually look for them, you'll find them. And then you don't have to, ask the person on the street with a disability who doesn't need to be explaining their body to you on, their everyday basis. So I think there are a plethora of resources available that you should definitely be going out and finding.
Well, that's the perfect takeaway for today is actively look, go searching. It's not always something at the forefront of everyone's mind to do this,
Yes.
but if you just spend 5 minutes, go look on Netflix for Rising Phoenix, check out a podcast. There's so many resources. I mentioned Carly Finlay's book, Say Hello.
Yes.
So do some researching, look for these things, and let's reframe how people look at disability. We're not inspiring.
Definitely.
We're not inspiring.
No, we're not. We're the worst.
So I think that's it. I think we've covered another topic. Quick, smart, Belle. It's great.
So good. And it came around full circle. Beautiful. Takeaways, lessons. Love it.
I like to tell everyone that we planned that from the get-go. 100%. But, if everyone likes our chats, please feel free to comment. Let us know if there's something you'd like us to discuss.
Any suggestions would be great.
Absolutely. Check out the blog as well, clickability.com.au/blog. In the meantime, have a great week, Belle.
Thank you. You too, Trish. I hope the rain stops.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. All right.
Beautiful.
Cheers, guys. Later.
Yeah. Bye.